All right, guys. So, welcome back to my channel. I knew that I had teased earlier in the week here that I had some interesting stuff to bring. For those of you that don't know me personally, because many of you don't know me personally, I've been a huge MMA fan for a very long time, and I've wanted to kind of broaden my channel a little bit and extend an MMA. I've talked to Neil Bauer, my buddy, about it, and he's with me, and we are proud to have our first fighter with us. Her name is Andrea KGB Lee. She is an extremely impressive female fighter. And Andrea, I really want to thank you for coming on board with us, being the first one we've had.
Before I start, I would like to thank all of my sponsors. Um, Apex Resistance and Conditioning, Fizz Kids by Carbonation Toys, Fighter Alias, MMA Roadhog, Classic Stone, and I'd like to thank Karate Mafia and all of the people that help me and coach me and train with me on a daily basis. Thank you to all my fans, and thank you to everybody who's listening tonight. And thank you for having me on this amazing podcast tonight. I really appreciate it.
For those of you, well, I guess for those that wouldn't know who you were, maybe a novice fan, maybe a promoter, could you describe yourself as a fighter?
Uh, well, see, I don't like to brag about myself. But as an amateur, I won 3 world kickboxing championships, Muay Thai kickboxing, and I was two-time Louisiana State Golden Glove champion. Also, the I was the national Golden Gloves champion, and I had about a total of 40 fights combined as an amateur. I competed in everything. I did boxing, uh, kickboxing, Muay Thai, MMA. Of course, MMA is my career choice, and it's what I follow the most. But I wanted to be well rounded, so I decided to compete in everything, and I was able to go to the IKF, the WKA, and the ISKA, and rack up a couple of belts and get a lot of experience in it too. So, and now as a professional fighter, I am 4-1 as a pro, and I am 1-0 as a professional kickboxer.
And right now you have the Legacy Road Flyweight title, correct?
I do. I
Okay.
did not mean to leave that out. Yes, and just 2 weekends ago, I just won the Legacy Flyweight World Championship title.
So, for those that aren't familiar with you, there's a very easy way to make a connection. If you own a TV, you know ISIS, Donald Trump, and Ronda Rousey exist. So, if you know Ronda Rousey, you know Misha Tate is her arch enemy, often beat by her. She had the Ultimate Fighter, and on the Ultimate Fighter, Roxanne Modafferi was on Team Tate, and you had
Hmm.
a very good fight against her. Now
I
it
did.
was a loss, but anyone that watched the fight, and I don't want to be partial to you because you're here, but honestly, it,
Hmm.
it felt like a fight you could have very easily won. Roxanne has an amazing legacy. She's one of the
Yeah.
pioneers in the sport. There are some people that will say, understandably, those people kind of get nods on
Hmm.
close decisions. What do you felt like you learned from that fight going forward to where you are now?
Well, in that fight, um, going in, I wasn't, I was, unfortunately, I wasn't 100%. And that was, not because of my training. I mean, it was because it was 2 days before my fight. We were drilling and we were doing some tech sparring, and it got a little bit too hard, and I got caught with a hook. Uh, right on the right side of my ear, and it ruptured my eardrum. So obviously that was a little bit too hard of a hit, and it just landed just right, and it ruptured my eardrum. This is 2 days before the fight. I hadn't even weighed in yet, but it was like the day before weigh-ins, and so I go. Right then and there, I knew that something was wrong with my ear because like it popped, and then I couldn't hear anything, and I was upset and I was all emotional because, I'm cutting weight, and, of course that's freaking me out. I got this huge fight coming up. And then I end up, as I'm taking a bath later that night, I just, I'm trying to soak my entire body. So I lay down in the bathtub and water just flushes my ear canal. That was painful. So because I got that much water in my ear, it gave me this head cold. My ear got infected. I had a fever. So I already had dropped like 30% of what, or 40% of what I could have been, or what I could have had in that fight, So instead of being even like 97%, or even 90%, I was way less than that in that fight. I knew that going in, it was a risk, but I didn't want to back out because I had so many people there to see me, and it was just a huge opportunity for me to get to fight Roxanne, and I didn't want to back out on her because her last opponent had just backed out on her, and so and I was the replacement, so I felt like I was gonna continue to do my job and step up and um, do the fight, and I did, and I lost to a split decision. It was it was a close decision. To me, I feel like I did terrible because I don't remember half the fight. I remember falling down and getting taken down multiple times, but there's little bits and pieces that I can remember. Um, I watched the fight afterwards, so I saw it, but do I remember being there? Not really. But so yeah, I feel like I could have easily won that fight had I been 100%, and that's what I learned. Just take it easy the week of your fight because you could still get injured at any point of time. So
And that was
anyway.
December of last year. If you go to December of this year, you just had an amazing fight with Ariel
Thank you.
Beck, one of
Hmm.
the fights of the year, even as we learned last night. A fight where honestly, I don't know that I've ever seen. It's a difficult fight to judge because I don't want to say like I've never seen someone just absorb so much punishment. I don't
Hmm.
know that I've ever seen someone just flat out dominate somebody so bad. And it's nothing against Ariel. She put up an incredible fight. I
Yeah.
don't care if it's man or woman. People would not absorb the type of punishment she did. I mean, you had her in submissions that were so deep, and she would just find a
Hmm.
way out.
You
So
know,
from Go ahead.
go ahead. What's your question?
I was going to say from one end of the spectrum to the next, where you have that fight where you said that you were hurt. I think you even had surgery after that, and
Hmm.
then you go to a fight where you literally are so dominant, it's looked at as the fight of the year. What do you think gets you from that one point where a lot of fighters would give up? You lost to a big name, and that was your moment, and you knew you weren't 100%. To now, literally, you set the stage with one of the biggest fights we've seen in the entire sport this year.
Well, I lost to a big name, but I lost a split decision. I mean, I was 2-0, and that was a big deal and a big accomplishment to me. Even though I lost a split decision, yes, I was upset, I was heartbroken, but I still felt good about my fight because I was able to compete with Roxanne, and in my heart, I knew that I could have done better than what I performed that night. So, you know there was no reason for me to give up, and I'm not that type of person that's going to give up. I mean, I've lost fights before, but I only learn from them and I only get better. You can't just give up when you lose your fight. Uh, like Ronda Rousey said, if she loses this fight, this rematch against Holly Holm, she's gonna quit. I'm not like that. I'm not gonna do that. But when I fought Ariel, I mean, that's awesome that everybody thinks that that was the fight of the year. That's a huge compliment, and I feel like I could have done better in that fight too. I feel like I wasn't. I feel like I didn't perform my best because I'm just hard on myself. Um, but Ariel Beck, like you said, not to take anything away from her, she is a really great fighter. I just didn't give her the opportunity to use her strengths, and her hands are her strength. And I knew that, and I didn't want to risk that. So I knew that she was weaker on the ground. So that's why I fought to take it to the ground and work for a submission.
So I can't get over that you went in with a ruptured eardrum. I can't generally get off the couch if I cut my fingernail too close. I'm like, that's it. I'm not risking anything. So that's exceptional. So and again, you can't go anywhere without hearing about Rousey, and I'm so sorry.
Hmm.
You're an entirely different fighter, but this is on a different subject. She has been kind of in the limelight, and it's been great for the sport. Getting more
Right.
people involved, getting more people active, and she's been outspoken. Between women and men in sports, and especially when Mayweather with what happened with him last year, and I would expect after just recently there was a ex NBA player, Gilbert Arenas, said some awful things, and
Oh.
it was about women in sports,
Mm.
and they were dealing with. They were pretty misogynistic, in
Hmm.
old thinking from the 70s, that
Mm-hmm.
and I'm
Women
paraphrasing.
don't belong in men's sports.
That is right, and that if they do, they're just ugly or lesbian or those standard, just really ridiculous, over the top.
Stereotypes.
You got it. So we
Hmm.
would expect at this point, after of course what happened last year with Mayweather, that somebody would come around, somebody from this sport would come around and say something. But she's kind of gone into hiding after
Yeah.
her upset. So
Hmm.
what are your thoughts? Do comments like this hurt the sport nationally, or do you think it's like a tidal wave that is not stoppable? Do you think this is where you are and how this sport is evolving? That these are just dinosaur comments, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, exactly everything that you just said. I feel like you said, dinosaur comments. I feel like, women's sport. I mean, everybody loves to. I mean, I won't say everybody because obviously not everybody loves women in sports, but the majority of the world does. And there's still a few of those people that still live in the Stone Age, and and their mindset is very old, and they just believe that women belong in the kitchen and they should be taking care of the kids and cooking and cleaning and doing laundry. But I mean, that's just not the way it is nowadays. And I think that there is no stopping women's MMA by someone saying that, women don't belong in the cage, they don't belong in the men's sport, or just in general, women's sports is more entertaining. I won't say that it's more entertaining. I know, but I mean, I enjoy watching women compete, and especially on a men's level. And we're not all, lesbian or dykish, or we don't. Not everybody's unfortunate looking. I mean, there's a lot of attractive women that are are athletic and can kick your butt, and or is sometimes even better than a man in their own sport. I just don't feel like there's no stopping it. So those comments, you know, they're like few and far between.
I think it's also rose very quickly. I mean, even if you take a look in the UFC, I mean, Dana White came out and said that they weren't going to have female fighting for a very long time, and then now here it
Right.
is, on the main, literally on the
Mhm.
main stage, time and time again,
Mhm.
selling more than any UFC pay per view has in the past. So there's not only that old hate that comes around, but I think there also is people that just genuinely don't want to see two girls get in a ring and fight. But you
Right.
can go buy UFC Fight Pass. You can get it. I think you can get it for free for a week, right? You could easily go watch the fight that you had with Ariel, and honestly, you can put that fight against any fight you'll ever see, and it literally will go down as one of the best. Not just because you're here. That fight was an incredible fight. If you
Thank
really
you.
haven't seen it, you owe it to yourself to go watch it. So earlier we had talked about where you were a year before. I wanted to ask you to close things out. Where do you think, if we come back and talk to you December of next year, where
Hmm.
is your career going to be, and what are your accomplishments? Not so short term right now.
Crazy. So much has happened in such a short time for me, and I haven't been a professional long, and I'm already a world title holder, like with Legacy, and that's just incredible to me. So next year, I hope to have defended my title belt with Legacy, and um, I want to continue to hold it, and I also hope that I get to, compete, for the Invicta title belt, and the women's flyweight title belt, and I'm hoping to be a world champion, the Invicta world champion. So maybe when you come back to me next year at back around Christmas, I'll be the Invicta world champion and also the Legacy flyweight world champion. So
Well, you are extremely talented. I think people that haven't heard your name are going to be surprised, especially if they look at what you've done, and more so if they watch what you're going to do. Again, I really can't thank you enough. I told Neil honestly there was a short list of about five fighters that I would want to start with. You
hmm
were honestly on the list because you are going to go places, and it really is great to have you with us. I really do appreciate it.
I really am extremely honored to be your first fighter on the podcast, and hopefully, it's not my last. And I'm wishing y'all the best of luck. This has been a really really enjoyable conversation that we've had, and I'm really honored to, like I said, to be the first on this podcast.
You have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Thank you so much for your time.
Be good.